All right, what is going on, everybody? Once again, my name is Brad Carney, and I am the lead developer on Exoverse, and I'm here once again with a patch notes video, breaking down the patch notes for A Starlyn is Born. So this was supposed to be out basically this coming Friday, and this update is coming out a week early. And a big reason for that is that there were a couple of issues that were still really frustrating new players. Really making the game not fun, overly stressful to play. And I really wanted to get those issues addressed as soon as possible so that we could basically get the game out there for new people to play and experience and review and all that fun stuff. And it just seemed like 3 weeks was going to be too long to kind of iterate on fixing those issues. So trying to keep with this a little bit quicker schedule. Going to try and do the next update in a couple weeks as well. So we'll see how that goes. Hope that ends up working out. So anyway, on to the patch notes. So really couple really big things here that are in this update. The first one is Starlyn. We have a new character who has been mostly added. Still a couple asset things that are missing, but kind of the most important things I think are all there. So Starlyn is the collector. She is a ranged hero. So she excuse me, yeah, a little throat bubble there. That was weird. But she's basically kind of a ranged hero. Her weapon is slot 4, which is kind of the bazooka slot. And her weapon is really cool. It's called the Thunder Gun. It's a steampunk weapon. Basically, it is the first electricity-based weapon. So the way you use this, instead of just kind of hold down the fire button and the gun shoots, when you hold down the fire button, it charges up. And then depending on when you release that, affects the nature and properties or the strength of the attack. So basically, when you have a charge between 1 and 40%, it does kind of a quick little shot that does good single target damage. When you charge up to 40 to 80%, it does a little bit stronger of a shot, but mostly it adds a shield damage multiplier. So it's really good against shielded enemies. It also does a lot of stun. And then finally, when you charge it between 80 and 99%, it does an area attack. So basically then it's really good at taking down groups of enemies. So if there's a group of 5 or 6 striders running along, you probably want to charge this up to that 80-90% mark and then shoot, and it'll wipe out all of them in pretty spectacular fashion. It's actually a really fun weapon. This is probably my favorite weapon in the game right now. Just really love how it's designed. I think it's really cool. But then when you charge it to 100%, it actually becomes overcharged, and you can't shoot it. And it does kind of a little kind of overheat / overcharge animation, kind of similar to the Blazar. If any of you have ever shot that thing too much, it will overheat and you do a little kind of animation. The difference here is the Blazar, you can't fire it for a while. It has to actually cool down, which takes several to many seconds. Or is this displays the overcharged animation, and that's it. You can go back to, you can resume firing after that without any kind of penalty. But what's kind of cool is that when you do overcharge it, you can actually power shot right after that for a whole bunch of extra damage. So yeah, the power shot here, the base amount of damage, it does a ton of stun. It's actually an 8-second stun, which is actually insane. But the amount of damage it does is also tied to how much you have it charged. So if you overcharge it, you get it all the way up to 100%, and then you shoot it. It's gonna do a ton of damage, ton of stun, and then when it's overcharged, it does an area attack, kind of like when you charge the gun up normally. Anyway, just really be sure to check out the tooltip. There's really a lot to it, and check it out in the lab too. It's a really cool weapon, and I hope people enjoy her. And the weapon as well. And quickly, she is the collector. What I'm kind of thinking of doing is adding something to the classes to make them a little bit more diverse. More so in terms of just like stats and their starting weapon. I'm thinking of like I've had this idea for a while, and I'm leaning more towards doing it. But like if each class starts with like a rune that gives them some kind of like perk. So like Starlyn's would be like picking up relics, like gives her like some kind of speed bonus for a while. It maybe she like sells relics for more in the shop, something like that. So I don't know. There's all sorts of stuff I can do with the characters, but looking to maybe do something like that in the near future. Anyway, so the other big thing is like there's tons of like big quality of life improvements. Again, like we want the game to be accessible. We want people to be having fun right away. We don't want the game to be confusing. And there were still some issues along those lines. And I hope this is doing a lot to make the game fun for not only new but returning players as well. So the beacon now zaps enemies that are trying to attack it, and it's capable of dealing with some groups of enemies all by itself. So this is like a big thing. The fact that the beacon can now retaliate. It was very stressful for a lot of players. Like one single strider would get by. And, because like they're playing as like Kane, they don't have a lot of speed, they don't have a lot of range. You just have to like book it after that thing, and this isn't something that like really helps with the difficulty of the game necessarily. It's more of like the annoyance factor. It's more of removing stress. It wasn't difficult to go chase after like one strider. It was more annoying than anything, and I think this does a lot to fix that. So if one or even like three or four striders, I think I did some testing with it. It kind of seemed like 4 or 5 was the breaking point, where they could start to get through the shield. But yeah, if a small amount of enemies gets through, like it's not the end of the world. Lower the health and shield on all monsters by roughly 20%, and increase the number of monsters by roughly 10%. So this is kind of aimed at a lot of people complain about the monsters being like way too bullet spongy. So this is we're taking the health down by everything, by 20%. And health. Health is in quotation marks. That includes health and shields. So then we're increasing the number of enemies by 10%. So it's not quite 20%. So it's not completely offsetting the amount of health that's being lost. But this hopefully should make the game a lot more fun. I'm not sure it's quite there. Like maybe you need to lower things even more, and then increase the number of monsters a little more. It seems like the wave that spawns in the lab is pretty fun. It's a ton of monsters. That all come pretty quick, and I don't know. It's waves more like that might need to be more like what the game is like. To encourage building a lot more. But this is gonna have in addition to like making the enemies less bullet spongy and hopefully being a little more fun to fight against, because there's going to be more enemies. The die faster streaks are going to go up. People are going to get much longer kill streaks, which means they're going to have more money, which means they're going to be able to build more and buy more things. And I hope that makes a big difference. I hope people are less stressed out as a result of this. The beacon is now invulnerable during all tutorials, so I don't think this was ever too much of an issue on the first one, but the second one where it's like 30 different Xylanders all walking unabated to the beacon. If you were quite quick enough on your headshots, they could swarm the beacon pretty quick. But hopefully this shouldn't be an issue anymore. Hey, this was also pretty common for like new players of the game, but not great at landing headshots or knowing how all the ranges work and all that. So I think this will be good. So we don't really people like failing the tutorial. It's there to kind of get people acquainted to the systems and how the game works and everything. So it's not supposed to be a challenge necessarily. Towers are now 50% off in normal mode. So, a lot of people were, mentioning that, it's, I buy things in the store and now I don't have to, now I don't have enough money to build things. I've always been looking for things to kind of affect, the difficulty of the game between normal and hard that don't change like the properties. Like I don't want to make the enemies like have more HP in hard. I kind of want everything that you got used to doing in normal to carry over to hard. Like I don't want you to have to like recalibrate like how much it takes to kill everything, how many shots it takes to kill everything. And this seems like a pretty good way to do it. Towers are now cheaper in normal mode, so people are going to be able to build more. They're going to be punished less harshly for spending money in the shop to start the game. So I hope this works out. I think it will. Unlocking a new an item in the unlock shop now gives you the item as well. And then unlocking items for the first time now creates an explanation pop-up. So basically both of these are for the unlock shop. And basically it's, the first time you unlock something, you get it. In addition to making it available to spawn in the worlds and appear in the shops. I think some other games, like I think they do like once you unlock something, like there's like a very high chance that it'll spawn like right away. I feel like Isaac and Necrodancer do that. I could be wrong. But it seems like a much more elegant way to do that, especially since you're doing it like in a shop. It's just kind of like a nice little quality of life thing that I hope will encourage people to actually go unlock things and not feel cheated and confused when they unlock something in a shop and then didn't have it added to their inventory. So hope that works out. Anyway, onto the new and improved section. Added the ability to okay, so basically there's a whole bunch of lab changes here. Basically the lab wasn't like fully, it was pretty close to done last time, but it was not quite there yet. Now it's pretty much mostly there. I mean, there's probably still little things I can tweak here and there, but it basically does everything you need to do now. So there is a dummy settings menu when you pause the game, and there's a little menu you can access there, which has like a bunch of options like refreshing the dummy health. You can put a shield on it, you can take the shield away, give it a champion property so you can kind of see how armor affects it, and regen, like that kind of thing. You can change the number of dummies too. So like if you have like an area weapon that you want to test the DPS on, like the bazooka, now you can spawn like 3, 5, 9, whatever. And you can see how the splash damage affects your DPS. It's also cool like to play with your range stat and see how that affects the explosion radius. So it's a bunch of options there. And also like the whole like the DPS calculations, like all that stuff. It's working a lot better now. Waves can now be spawned in the lab, so it's and now you can actually summon a wave, and a rather sizable wave too. Where you can test out your defenses, your mace and lance and everything. I've been having a lot of fun with that, honestly. Like I've just been giving myself a budget of like $6,000. I mean, not I try and stay within $6,000 spent. Tracks all that stuff. They just try and like AFK and let my towers clear the wave, and it's been a lot of fun. I'm thinking about turning that into a like a missions mode, where it's like like 10 little like kind of mini missions where like you just kind of set up a bunch of towers and try and use those to clear the wave, without you interfering at all. It'd be like a little kind of mini puzzle mode, which would also show you kind of like how to build mazes, hopefully. So I don't know. We'll see. Thinking about doing that. The lab now displays the amount of damage your last shot did. Okay, so yeah, in addition to like the total amount of damage you've done since it has reset, The last shot you fired, it'll give you that information too. And then finally, you're now given the compass, auto map, and radar in the lab. Just kind of like a nice little quality of life thing, honestly. Okay, so then on to non-lab stuff. Kane's Brave Star now heals for 0.5 health for every enemy overkilled with his power shot. So basically, his power shot, Avenger, it does bonus health. Bonus damage for health missing. Kane, he really just kind of powers up as his health goes down. Which, by the way, that's... going back to the whole class perks thing, that's him powering up as he loses health probably is kind of what his perks will be like. But he doesn't really have a way to kind of recover his health, so he just kind of gets in a dangerous kind of territory, and then he's just kind of stuck. So this is a way for him to kind of recover his health a little bit, which I think is important for a hero who thrives at low health. Gigordo no longer does double the amount of normal damage for the given world. So the way damage works in this is that it's world dependent. Instead of everything in World 1, depending on what, it doesn't really matter what moderate monster it is. It does a half heart's worth of damage every time they hit you. And then in World 2, that same monster will do 1 heart's worth of damage every time they hit you. And then monsters can be flagged as doing double that amount. So Gigordo was doing 1 full heart worth of damage on World 1, and then two hearts worth of damage every time he damages you on World 2, which seemed like a lot, but it's also kind of it's a boss. He should be doing more damage than the normal enemy, but I don't know. It seemed like it was a little too much. So hopefully that nerf helps Gigordo be a little bit less of a pain for people. Also slow down his missile attack animation. This gives you more time to react to what he's doing. The fact that he doesn't have sound cues on his animations, to give you that kind of audio cue, hey, he's about to attack, I should dodge. His missiles are kind of coming a little bit out of nowhere. But this slowdown, I think will help that quite a bit. So between these two changes, I'm curious to see how Gigordo is for people. So we'll be paying attention. Changed up random number generation. This should lead to better randomization of boss selection, item spawning, etc. So, been getting a lot of complaints that oh my god, I always get Gigordo. I always get these same items that spawn. And, I would research it. I would kind of do, my own kind of little tests. And, it seemed like the randomization was working. So, I don't know if this is just, I don't know if it's just people, having selective memory. It's they don't always get Gigordo, but they don't remember the times they got Space Jam, and which is something that human beings do a lot, honestly. It's my mother, for instance, she was a pharmacist, and she'd always be oh my god, the full moon makes people crazy. Oh my god, and then it's because she's. And then it's, she would come home and, talk about how crazy people were. And then I'd be oh, well, tonight it wasn't a full moon, right? And then she would just kind of, I don't know. Point is, people have selective memory. It's a thing. I don't know if that's happening here. But we'll see. So basically what I did here is the randomization, I'm just using a different randomization library that generates random numbers. So I don't know. It could be on certain systems, the other method wasn't doing. There were issues with the random number generation. Excuse me. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm hopeful that this has some positive impact, and that things are mixed up a little better now. I'm kind of skeptical, but we'll see. I hope it works. Updated the normal mode description. So now it mentions that you get bonus stats, which I think is something that I did for the last update, but it wasn't in the patch notes. Yeah, everyone gets a bonus stat now, by the way. It seems like an important thing to include, but it's everyone gets a A bonus to their damage, luck, speed, and range stats, and I think also an additional health. Seems important, but that's all included in the description now of normal mode, plus the cheaper tower costs. So that's all better. Improved chieftain animations. These are pretty much all done now. They were kind of like 90% of the way there last time. But now it's like the yell animations are a lot better. And he has a better death, better player attack animation. But before it's like it was using one of the beacon attack animations to hit the player and just immediately it's like his staff just like teleports into your skull. But now it's like an actual wind up to it and everything. It's in pretty good shape now. Slightly slow down the clear display after clearing an area. It's neat. Buyback items in the shop no longer have their price listed since they don't cost anything. And basically, like the real reason for this was that now that going back to the earlier change, where unlocking an item gives you the item as well. Now that has a chance to be to create a situation where it has to be a buyback. And basically it would look weird like if you're trying to like buy back a weapon for like $0, and then like the other stuff listed there would have like relic costs next to it. So it just didn't really make sense to just like not even have any kind of display there for buybacks. Plus it more accurately or more not accurately, but it's a little clearer that it's a buyback if there isn't any price listed. Reading the second tutorial to weapons and stats. It used to be called weapons and combat. And that was when that tutorial was going to be different. Now it focuses more on stats. So there you go. Turrets that are overheated now display an orange on the maps. This is the auto map and the tab screen map. It's not a major thing. It's just the icon is kind of orange. Most people probably won't notice it, but hey, it's there. Fields are now fully reset when going into the planning phase. This is big for like the marking fields, which would only go on cooldown once a certain number of enemies walked all the way through. So basically, between when going back to the planning phase, like both like in the world and also in the lab. Now this fully resets fields, and in the lab you don't have to do anything annoying like selling a field and then putting it back down. So just kind of a nice little quality of life thing. Add a proper menu title graphics to the lab's menus. Minor thing, but that's kind of nice that that's in now. Increase the base damage on the rifle from 35 to 42.5. The rifle really needed a buff, and it got it. It's kind of minor, but it definitely helps. It doesn't feel like the worst weapon in the game anymore. Multiple kamikazes will no longer target the same barricade. So, because of like the way the clusters were, kind of formed, like, the kamikazes would all like be in a line. And they would all usually go for the closest one, which for all three of them happened to be the same barricade. So they would all kind of like walk up to it, and the first one would explode, which would explode the second kamikaze, which would explode the third kamikaze. It was kind of messy. It's not really how kamikazes would work. So now they all target a different one, which makes them more threatening, by the way. But it's better. I mean, they're smarter. I think that's a good thing. It's something that increases difficulty, but it's in a good way. So I'm pretty happy with that. Improved tower targeting. So towers can no longer lock onto the same target. Or towers can now lock onto the same target. They prioritize marked targets, and they can now choose between the highest and lowest health enemy. And that's relevant for machine gun turrets, which have been changed so that basically like the only turrets that these are affecting is machine gun turrets. So machine gun, because everything else is like it's like an area tower, so like they're just gonna start attacking as soon as something is within range. So Yeah, like machine gun turrets are really like the only single target towers, so they're going to be the ones that are affected here. But now level 1 machine gun turrets will attack the lowest health enemy, and level 3 machine gun turrets will attack the highest health enemy. So this is this is an important thing because it's kind of showing how these turrets are supposed to be used. You don't want to use your like higher level turrets on weaker enemies because they'll overheat, they'll overkill in a lot of cases, which is not what you want. And then you want your level 1 turrets to attack the low health enemies. You don't want them to be attacking the high health enemies because it's not going to kill them. They're not going to do enough damage to them in the short amount of time those enemies are within the range of those turrets. So there's another thing that I was trying to do. Like when I was experimenting in the lab, it's I was trying to figure out ways to like balance the turrets. So it's like you want each like level of turret to be like situational. So it's like you want to use like level 3s in a place. You want there to be like level 2s in a place, level 1s. Like you don't want it to be like, oh, you just use level 1s everywhere. That's the most efficient. Blah blah blah. Because that would be boring. So basically, what I came up with is that it would be more interesting if the level 3 turrets like had more synergy with marks. So basically, marking fields got like a huge buff here. The amount of enemies like went up dramatically, especially for like the level 3 marking fields. From 8 to 20 for level 3, 4 to 8 with level 2, and then 2 to 3 for level 1. And then the multiplier for machine gun turrets went up a ton for level 2 and 3 turrets. So like from 150% to 200 and 300% respectively. So basically, like you almost want to like save your marks for when enemies are about to pass through level 3 turrets. But yeah, people now can, they can go to the lab, they can screw around with it, and kind of see what works best. So yeah, and then there were some fixes, fixed some display issues on the tab screen when using non 16:9 aspect ratio resolutions. So like, if you're trying to look at that screen like at 4:3, it's still not great. Like the whole screen like wasn't designed for non 16:9. In mind, but it's definitely better now. And then bug fix allowing the training dummy to be removed from the lab. This is basically like whenever a turret would damage it, and then you sold the turret, it would do that. I think there was something in the first tutorial where there was a way to get rid of the holograms. I wasn't able to recreate that, but hopefully this fixes that too. Change various descriptions to make it clear that certain items heal you. I don't think it changed the food items, but that's like the Brave Star Power Shot description. And then I think there were a couple more things. But yeah, anytime we can kind of clean up the terminology so that people understand it better, it's a good thing. Games that are no longer saved in the lab, good. Shouldn't have been in the first place, but oversight on my part. It's fixed now. And then finally clean up some input issues in menus. So that's there wasn't like quite 100% consistency between like whether or not a key down or key up would kind of advance things. And you get into situations like where you're like having a cutscene conversation. Like in the store, so like you'd press enter to leave it, and then releasing the enter key would like sometimes like bring up like make you buy an item or something, which is not what you want. But everything should be 100% good there now. So yeah, so that's it for this update. I hope people check out Starlyn. I think everyone's been pretty much playing Vance for the most part. I hope there is a new. I hope things are at least balanced now. Kane's better. Hope people are using more of him. But hope people check her out. I think her weapon is super cool. really want to get her arms done. That would be fantastic. Yeah, and then a couple more effects I'm still working on for the gun. And then it should be pretty good, pretty good. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. If anyone has any comments on the new build, would appreciate that. But yeah, otherwise, have a good day and take care.